To those who are not familiar with our work, let me say at once that we are not beginning with more information about God. Please let us be clear about that. Reading about God is far from experiencing God. Hearing about peace is not the same as entering peace. Before we have counsel, before we have study, before we make even the slightest attempt to improve our health, our supply, our homes, our relationships, before all of that, there is a moment, a sacred moment of turning within. We begin there because abiding is not a concept to be grasped. It is a presence to be lived in. If you are accustomed to lectures that fill the mind, this may feel strange. But our work is not the stocking of shelves in the brain. It is the opening of a door in the heart. Meditation is the real secret behind all of the work that we do. Unless we can become silent enough, still enough to touch that realm that is closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet, we will only be visitors at the threshold of the holy, never residents in its home. And so, before we speak of abiding, let us understand the order of our way. Turn within first. Turn within before you ask, before you diagnose, before you try to fix an effect in the outer scene. Turn within, and in that turn, begin to rest. Please observe the difference I am drawing. There is an almost unnoticeable habit in most of us. We visit the presence as if stopping at a chapel on a busy street. We light a candle, we feel a softening, and then we hurry back to the marketplace, armed with a sentiment. But visiting is not dwelling. Visitors come and go. Dwellers live and remain. One produces a momentary relief. The other establishes an inward government. Stop visiting God. Live there. Not as a slogan to repeat, but as a profound diagnosis of why our peace evaporates and our fruit withers. Visitors borrow quiet, dwellers become rooted in it. Now let us speak plainly. An almost frightening fact has met us in every generation. As human beings, we are not under the government of God. We are under the government of our reactions, our fears, our hopes, our headlines, our budgets, our aches, and our calendars. Reading about the sovereignty of spirit does not free us from this human government. Only experience, only contact changes government, and contact is not attained by strain or by piling up right thoughts. Contact is found in stillness, in listening, in a surrender so quiet that the Father within us can be heard. I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. If we will accept that, we will understand why we begin here with stillness and not with plans for self-improvement. Before you take a note, before you recall a verse, before you form a wish, I would ask you to let the mind rest in a simple turning. It is not an exercise in words. It is an attitude of expectancy, a willingness to be met. Close the inner ear to the noises of the day just for a minute and say within yourself, not as a speech, but as a yielding, here I am. Not here are my problems, not here are my ambitions. Simply, here I am. It is enough to begin, for the kingdom of God is within you, and in proportion as you consent to meet it there, in that proportion does the outer life begin to come under its government. Anything in the external world is an effect. The presence and the power of cause are within you. If you have come hoping for a technique that will make life behave, let this reorder your hope. We are not trying to change effects. We are returning to cause. We are not seeking peace as a thing. We are entering peace as presence. We are not reaching out for fruit. We are locating the vine within which fruit is natural. Even now, as you listen, let the shoulders drop. Let the breath be unforced. We are not achieving God. We are consenting to God. That is why we begin with stillness. It is not passivity. It is the most intelligent act a soul can make, to withdraw faith from the outer realm and offer it humbly to the source within. Many will ask, will there be results? Will there be guidance? Will supply appear? Will the body be strengthened? yes, but not because we chase results. In proportion as we make our dwelling in the presence, effects conform without strain. That is the law of cause and effect as it functions in spirit. If you visit, you may taste a sweetness and then watch it fade with the next wind. If you dwell, the sweetness is not on the tongue. It is in the sap. It remains because you remain. And so the promise of our time together is not a momentary hush that dissolves at the first ringing telephone. The promise is an ongoing, indwelling consciousness that silently shapes the day to itself, guiding conversation, ordering decisions, quieting nerves, even before you know you need quieting. Do not be disturbed if at first the silence seems empty. It may be so for a while. It may not come quickly, but do not let that disturb you. Your good will begin the very moment you start to turn within, even if you have no conscious awareness of any presence. The act of consenting is already a re-education of your trust. It is already building within you the habit of dwelling. And habits, repeated gently, 3 and 4 and 5 times a day, become homes. Before breakfast, before a meeting, before responding to a difficult letter, turn within. 2 minutes are enough to begin, not to get something, but to be there, to live there. Let us then set our course. We will speak of abiding. We will open the scriptural word and see what it asks of us. We will learn how to sit and listen and how to carry that listening into the hours. But all of it rests upon this first step. Taken now and taken often, be still and know. Not still to make something happen. Still that something may reveal itself as the only doer, the only life, the only vine. From this point forward, let the refrain sound within you whenever you feel yourself becoming a traveler to the holy. Stop visiting God. Live there, and in proportion as you do, you will find that the day, the duty, the relationship, the body, the purse, the nation you inhabit, each becomes a place where the inner government appears naturally, quietly, as fruit on a branch that has simply remained where the life is. Now let us take our key from the Master himself. In the 15th chapter of John we read, "Abide in me, and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine. No more can ye, except ye abide in me. I am the vine, ye are the branches. For without me ye can do nothing." John 15:4-5. Please let us be clear about that. This is not poetry for posters. This is instruction, law, cause and effect, made plain enough for a child, and at the same time so deep that the busiest mind in the world misses it. Abide in me. Dwell, live there, not visit, not check in, not borrow a comfort and hurry back to the noise. Live there, and I in you. When the Master uses the word abide, he is not inviting us to a mood. He is not suggesting a devotional sentiment that rises with the hymn and falls with the benediction. Abide means to dwell. Dwelling means to live. To live means to make your address there, to receive your mail there, to be found there at all hours. And where is there? Here, within, closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. Abide in me, and I in you is not a geographical command, not a pilgrimage to an outer holy place. It is the establishment of a conscious, continuous, inner communion with the indwelling Christ as the secret of all fruit. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, let us hear that as if for the first time. The outer life, our conversations, our businesses, our bodies, our ministries, our households, is the fruit. The branch is our human appearance, our form in the world, our activity among men and women. The vine is the invisible life, the divine sap, the Christ realized within. Anything in the external world is an effect. The presence and the power of cause are within you. When we reverse that order, when we seek fruit by effort, by manipulation of effects, By multiplying thoughts about God instead of contact with God, we place ourselves where no branch can live, cut off from sap, drying in the sun, manufacturing plastic fruit to impress the neighbors. It will not feed anyone. It will not even satisfy you. Now, when the Master says, "Without me ye can do nothing," do not take that as discouragement. Do not hear it as a rebuke hurled at the weak. Hear it as liberation from a terrible slavery, the slavery of self-powered striving. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me, he doeth the works. The same Spirit that spoke through the Master speaks to you and to me. Lay down the tools of personal sense. Withdraw your faith from the outer realm, from persons or places or things, from budgets and calendars and opinions, even from your own best ideas, and consent to the inner government. That is not passivity. That is intelligent cooperation with reality. For reality is that the vine produces the fruit and the branch bears it. The branch does not grunt to make sap. The branch remains, abides, lives there, and the life moves without strain. Please observe the proportional nature of this. In proportion as we abide, in that proportion harmony appears. In proportion as we are steady in our inner life, in that proportion are our steps ordered outwardly. In proportion as the Word of God, the imparted word, not the recited sentence, takes root within us, in that proportion does fear recede, guidance come, supply flow, relationship heal. We do not become holy by accident. We become whole in proportion as we dwell in the wholeness already given, the Christ within. This is not a moral program. It is grace obeyed. Someone will say, "But I remember God often." Yes, and we are grateful for every memory that turns us even a few degrees inward. But remembrance is not yet abiding. A photograph of home is not home. A traveler can carry a picture of his family in his wallet and still sleep in hotels. Abiding is relocation. It is the shift of one's dependence, one's trust, one's identity from the visible branch to the invisible vine. That is why visiting cannot sustain us. Visitors remain under the government of appearances, under news and nerves, under praise and blame. Dwellers come under the government of God. They do not escape the world. They transfigure it by letting cause govern effect. Let us look again at the language. Abide in me, and I in you. The two movements are one movement. As we settle into inner stillness and listen, as we take our place in the quiet, there is an answering presence that takes its place in us. Not a thing we create, not a feeling we push for, not a mental picture we hold with white knuckles. It is impartation. It is the Word of God within you, quickening, instructing, governing. All power is in that word, all power. Not in our repetition of right phrases, not in our noble ethics, not in our intensity of devotion. All power is in the Word, and the Word is within you. When you abide, you are at the point of its issuance. You are the branch at the place of graft. Life is exchanged there, secretly, and then, without your supervision, fruit appears. Now, let us be very practical. If the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine, no more can ye, except ye abide in him. What then is your day about? Is it about producing fruit, or is it about remaining where the life is? If you set out to produce fruit, you will hurry, you will plan, you will worry, you will exhaust yourself with comparisons and deadlines and sensations of success and failure. If you set out to abide, you will pause, you will listen, you will consent. You will find that work is done, yes, letters answered, appointments kept, children fed, books written, businesses tended, but they will be done as the overflow of life, not as the struggle for life. The same tasks, the same hours, another government. Do not be disturbed if you find yourself slipping back to visitor habits. It may be so for a while, but the instruction remains simple and it remains merciful. Abide. When you notice agitation, abide. When you face decision, abide. When praise comes, and it will, abide. When blame comes, and it will, abide. Let the sap do the doing. Let the Father do the works. Begin now and begin again in 10 minutes, and again after that. Not to achieve a feeling, not to make fruit, but to live where fruit is inevitable. And in proportion as you do, you will discover that, "Without me ye can do nothing," is the happiest sentence in Scripture, because it releases you from the failed experiment of separation and returns you to the only place a life can live, in the vine. Now, before we move further, we must face an almost frightening fact. As human beings, we are not automatically under the government of God. Please let us be clear about that. To be born into a religious home, to attend a service, to carry a Bible in the pocket, none of these by themselves constitute government by spirit. The ordinary course of human life is government by appearances, by fear, by pressure, by whatever voice is loudest in the moment: headlines, aches, balances, praises, blames. It is not that God is absent. God is never absent. The kingdom of God is within you. The absence is in our dwelling. We live as if we are separate. We act as if the vine is a distant tree and our branch must somehow squeeze out life by personal grit. That is our sorrow. How does this separation look in the day? Let us be very candid. We visit God. We pay a call. A crisis comes, a diagnosis, a bill, a child's trouble, and we hurry into a prayer, earnest, strained, filled with words and urgent desire. The wave passes, the prayer diminishes, and we return, almost without noticing it, to the old mental atmosphere. Or in the morning we give 5 minutes to a devotion, a verse and a whisper. Then, as the coffee cools, we open the newspaper, the inbox, the calendar, and the earlier hush evaporates as if it had never been. Or on Sunday we receive an uplift, music, fellowship, a good word, and by Tuesday we are back to the familiar inner weather. Planning, hurrying, resenting, fearing, comparing. We do not mean to live this way, but habit is a strong master, and it makes visitors of us. We light a candle in the chapel and then arm ourselves to fight the marketplace alone. What is the evidence that we are visiting and not dwelling? It is right there in the cycles we cannot seem to break. Anxiety that returns like a tide, control that tightens the jaw and the calendar, resentment rehearsed as if it were a sacred script, compulsive planning that declares, "If I can just arrange it all, make no errors, foresee every problem, then I will be safe." And what are we seeking in all of this? Effects. Supply as an effect. Health as an effect. Peace as an effect. We forget that anything in the external world is an effect, and that cause is within. We run after fruit as if fruit were the life, never noticing that the branch cannot bear fruit of itself. Please let us be clear. We are not condemned for this. We are trained into it by a world that has forgotten the vine. But in proportion as we keep operating at the level of effects, in that proportion do we bind ourselves to the pendulum. A little gain, a little loss. A good week, a bad week, up with praise, down with blame. Underneath this pendulum is a hidden assumption. It is the root of the visitor life. Let me say it simply. I am the doer. I must hold it together. If we could see how often this sentence rules our day, we would marvel. We wake and pick up the tools, thoughts, strategies, anxieties, and set about holding the universe together by personal management. And because we start from the outer scene, calendar, budget, body, headlines, and lean those appearances inward upon the soul, the inner life gets pushed and shoved into conformity with the outer. This is living outer to inner. This is separation in practice. This is how we reverse cause and effect, and then we wonder why the effects are stubborn. We are trying to make the branch its own vine. Look at the hours. The phone rings with a critical tone, and the heart leaps. The body is instantly under the government of a voice outside. An invoice delays, and the mind races. Supply is imagined as numbers on a screen, rather than as the invisible government of the Father's house. A friend forgets, and resentments rise. Love is treated as a commodity doled out by personalities instead of as the Christ within that never withholds itself. We watch the body like a suspicious guard, counting aches and measuring energy, as if life were a commodity to be preserved by fear. Then we say a prayer, perhaps, but the prayer is captive to appearances. It is a plea launched from panic, asking God to fit himself into our plan. That is visiting. That is not dwelling. Dwelling does not begin with effects. Dwelling returns to cause. The Scripture has already warned and invited us. In the 15th of John, the Master does not say, "Visit me and see what happens." He says, "Abide in me, and I in you." In the 91st Psalm, the word is not, "He that visiteth the secret place of the Most High shall have a nice afternoon." It is, "He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty." Dwelleth means to live. To live means to remain. Romans says, "We are sons of God, if so be that the Spirit of God dwell in you." There it is again, if so be. Not if we say so, if so be that it is realized, that it is lived, that it has become the inner government. Reading about these words is not harmful, but reading about God is far from experiencing God. These verses are not ornaments for speech. They are diagnoses and prescriptions. They tell us why demonstrations elude us and how they appear when cause is honored. I know how strong the habit is. The world applauds the doer. The world rewards the hurry. Even our spirituality can become a doing. Affirmations multiplied, right phrases assembled, schedules of holiness maintained, without ever turning from outer to inner. Then, when the pressure mounts, we double the volume, trying harder, which is just a more intense form of the same separation. If you will pardon the bluntness, we are often like a person polishing a mirror to make the sun shine. The mirror is the outer life. The sun is the inner presence. Polishing has its place, but it does not make light. The light is given, it is to be received, it is to be abided in. Now, do not let any heaviness take you. This is not to scold, it is to liberate. Please let us be clear about that. To see the mechanism is already to be released from part of its power. When you catch yourself praying as a visitor, talking at God from the edge of panic, smile a little and say within, "Ah, there is the old habit." And then turn. Even for 15 seconds, turn, not to get an effect, not to rush the vine for sap, simply to remember reality. I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me, he doeth the works. If you have no feeling, fine. If you hear nothing, fine. Your willingness to withdraw faith from the outer scene, even for a breath, is already a crack in the old government. In proportion as that crack widens by frequent returns, in that proportion the light enters, and with it a new government. Let us make this practical even now. When the next email arrives that seems to demand your instant reply, notice the body's urge to hurry. Pause. Close the inner ear to the noise for one breath. Say nothing outwardly. Within, consent. Here I am. That is all. When a bill or a diagnosis tempts you to think, "I must fix this," take the same breath and confess, "Father, without you I can do nothing." Not as a magic sentence, as surrender, as truth acknowledged. That simple shift, withdrawal of consent from appearances, returning consent to the indwelling Christ, is the seed of dwelling. Repeat it gently, 3 and 4 and 5 times during the day, not as a technique to force fruit, but as a homecoming. You will not be perfect in it, Do not be disturbed. Visitors do not become dwellers in a single afternoon, but every return is a lengthening of your stay, and every lengthened stay is a measure of new government. Here is the promise inside the diagnosis. The problem is not lack of God's presence. The problem is our habit. Habits can be unlearned. Governments can change. In that quiet turning, you are voting with your trust, and the kingdom within receives that vote. Do not say, "I tried and nothing happened." Something always happens when you consent to cause. Sometimes it is only the softening of the breath or the loosening of the shoulders. That is already the loosening of the false doer. In proportion as this loosening continues, the outer life begins to take on the character of the inner cause. Less hurry, more order. Less defensiveness, more clarity. Fewer pendulums, more poise. This is not make-believe. This is the law embedded in the teaching. Abide in me, and I in you. So let us accept without despair and without denial the sober truth. Most of us still live as if we are separate. Let us accept it, and then with that same breath, let us turn. The chapel is not a place. It is an attitude. The service is not an hour. It is a consent. The prayer is not a speech. It is a listening. We will learn more of the how. We will practice the stillness, but do not wait for the perfect lesson to begin. Begin here. Begin now. Withdraw from the tyranny of effects, if only for a minute, and yield to the cause that is closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. In that yielding, separation melts, and we pass from visiting to dwelling, from human government to the government of God. And in that government, fruit is not coerced. It appears. It remains, because you remain. Let us now touch the core revelation plainly, because upon it much confusion dissolves. We have been polishing the branch. We have been massaging effects. We have been arranging, improving, tightening the screws on behavior, on schedules, on diets, on budgets, on conversations, sincere, diligent, even admirable, and wondering why the deep peace remains elusive, and the fruit, when it appears, spoils so quickly. Please let us be clear about that. Polishing the branch does not make sap. Repainting the leaves does not make spring. We have been trying to bear fruit of ourselves, and the Master has already told us where that road ends. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, no more can ye, except ye abide in me. The shock is not that we have failed. The shock is that we keep trying the same approach, thinking that more polish will become life. Now here is the paradox that offends the busy mind and frees the humbled heart. Health, supply, harmony, these, sought as objectives, are difficult, nearly impossible. Not because God withholds them, but because we seek them where they are not. They are not in the realm of effect. They do not arise from the manipulation of forms, pills and plans and prayers shouted at the ceiling. They appear naturally and without strain as the byproduct of abiding. In proportion as we give up the effort to attain them, in that proportion do they come, because we have ceased to treat fruit as cause and returned to the vine as cause. To the human ear, this sounds like surrendering the only tools we have. To the illumined ear, this is the discovery of the only power there is. Anything in the external world is an effect. Say that slowly to yourself. Anything in the external world is an effect. The presence and the power of cause are within you. When we forget this order, we invert reality. We begin with symptoms and try to think our way back to health. We begin with numbers and try to plan our way back to supply. We begin with a person's conduct and try to negotiate our way back to love. We brace, we fix, we bargain, and because the outer is only ever an echo of the inner, the echo merely bounces off the walls more loudly. We are harassing our own shadows. Return to cause, return to the vine. Withdraw faith, quietly, not with a flourish, from the outer realm of persons and places and things, and offer it humbly to the indwelling Christ. This is not passivity. This is intelligent cooperation with the structure of being. The vine produces the life. The branch bears it. Someone will say, but surely right thinking helps. Right thinking has its place as a broom has its place. It tidies the floor. But brooms do not bring sunrise. Your right thinking does not create God's activity, not your intensity, not your affirmations. That is not salvation. Salvation is the Word realized within. All power is in the Word, and the Word is within you. Scripture, then, is not given to us as a comfort text to be stroked in anxiety until we feel better. Scripture is a doorway, a threshold, into realized state. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Dwelleth means live. But that sentence does not protect by being recited like a charm. When, by grace and gentle practice, its truth is imparted within, when something says itself inside you, then, without your arranging, you find safety, security, supply, companionship, home, health, harmony following like children who trust their parent. The lips may still repeat the verse, but the power is in the impartation, not the repetition. Let us make this vivid by contrast. Imagine the branch watching the other branches growing nervous because the neighbor seems to be ripening earlier. It tightens, it strains, it paints berries on itself to look productive. This is our self-improvement apart from abiding, performative, exhausting, anxious, and barren at the root. Then imagine the branch that rests, not as laziness, but as trust, drawing, receiving, consenting to the life that is already surging invisibly. It does not measure the minutes to harvest. It dwells, and in its hour, without decree, fruit appears. There is the law, and there is our invitation. Stop seeking fruit. Return to the vine. Live where life is. You ask, how then shall I attend to my needs? The body has a pain. The purse has a lack. The home has a conflict. We do not deny appearances. We deny them government. We do not push them away. We refuse to let them govern our prayer. We do not run to fix. We return to cause. In the presence of a symptom, our movement is not to declare 1,000 sentences at the flesh. It is to turn, Father, you are the life of this life. I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. In the presence of a bill, our movement is not to rehearse lack. It is to turn. All supply is of the Father, not persons, not places, not things. Cause, not effect. In the presence of conflict, our movement is not to win an argument. It is to return to love within, until that love tells us whether to speak or to be silent or to make amends. In proportion as we treat these moments as invitations to abide, the effects begin to conform in their season. Please notice that word, season. Even in spirit there is order. We cannot ripen Tuesday by command, but we can live in the sap Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and find that by Thursday, without our vigilance, there is sweetness in the fruit. I know how urgent it feels when the clock says 10:30 a.m. and the day is already difficult. You have a decision to make. The phone is lighting, the stomach is tight. What does returning to cause look like then? It looks like this. Withdraw consent from the tyranny of the next 5 minutes. Do not ask for a sign. Do not reach for a sentence to subdue the nerves. Close the inner ear to the noise, if only for one quiet breath. Within, not as a speech, but as a yielding, here I am. Then, Father, without you I can do nothing. Wait, even for 10 seconds, as if expecting someone you trust to enter the room. This is not an attempt to wring fruit out of the vine. This is the branch remembering where it lives. Sometimes you will feel a softening, sometimes nothing at all. Do not be disturbed. The act itself is a return to cause, and cause silently begins its government. Then proceed to your task, not as one hunting fruit, but as one remaining where life is. Write the email, but refrain from the anxious sentence you would have added. Make the call, but let your tone be governed by the inner quiet instead of the outer rush. Pay the bill you can pay, bless the one you cannot, and keep your address in the secret place. In proportion as you stay, even intermittently, even imperfectly, you will discover that guidance appears just when needed. Opportunities unimagined arise. Strength not scheduled shows up at the right hour. Effects conform because cause is honored. This is our relief and our assignment. Fruit is the byproduct of abiding. All our straining after outcomes has been the long detour. Let it be over. Return to the vine. Let the word within take up its place. Rest the shoulders, quiet the breath. Consent to the only government that can keep a life. We are not abandoning duty. We are bringing duty under a new law. And as we live there, morning, noon, and yes, at 10:30 on the hardest day, we will find the old pendulums losing their swing and the new order appearing gently, inevitably, as fruit on a branch that has finally ceased trying to be its own tree. Now, before we rush on to method, let us clear the ground. Please let us be clear about this. Abiding is not something we do to God with the mind. It is not an effort to manufacture peace by repeating words until the nerves give up. It is not a spiritualized clench. It is not the clever denial of conditions so that we may escape responsibility for our day. Abiding is not mood management. A quiet feeling may come, it may not. That is not the test. The test is whether we have withdrawn our faith from the realm of effects and yielded to the inner government where the Father doeth the works. The human mind can think about God all day long while the heart remains on the outside looking in. We know this from experience. We can quote the 91st Psalm under our breath in an airplane, or rehearse John 15 on the way to a difficult meeting and find that the pulse still argues, the jaw still tightens, the old government still holds the office. Why? Because thinking about God is not the same as touching God. Hearing of truth, reading of truth, even repeating truth. These are preparatory steps, good steps, needed steps, but they leave us halfway to heaven unless, by grace, the Word is imparted within. All power is in the Word. All power is in the Word, and the Word is within you. Never the word that goes out of our mouth as a device to coerce calm. Always the Word of God that comes to us within us as living government. When that happens without our aiding or abetting, the atmosphere changes from center to circumference. Let us also say what abiding is not in relation to appearances. It is not denial in the sense of pretending. We do not shut our eyes to the bill or to the pain or to the conflict and call that faith. We open our eyes to a higher government and call the bill, the pain, the conflict what they really are, effects without authority to govern cause. Abiding does not excuse us from the next wise step, it orders it. We will still sign the check, attend the appointment, make amends where needed, but we will not let the appearance dictate the prayer or set the temperature of the soul. We return to cause first, that the act we take may be the overflow of life, not the scramble of fear. Another misuse is subtle and very common. We try to use God as a tool to fix conditions. Our prayer becomes negotiation with effects. If you will only do thus and so, then I will. And we begin to pet the symptoms with holy language. We rearrange the outer scene in imagination and call it demonstration. But anything in the external world is an effect. To treat prayer as manipulation of effects is to place the cart where the horse ought to be. It is visiting the vine to borrow a bucket of sap for our own program, then hurrying back to manage a separate life. This is why results come and go, why the fruit, when it appears, spoils. It was glued on by desire, not grown by life. Now look at the pattern given us. The Master does not say, "With sufficient concentration you can do it." He says, "I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me, he doeth the works." There is the posture of abiding. It is not the jaw set, it is the hands opened. It is not a mind straining to hold a right sentence. It is a heart consenting to be held by the rightness of God. It is not our private energy marshaled for a victory. It is the cessation of our private energy so that the one power may reveal itself as safety, security, supply, companionship, home, health, harmony. In proportion as we accept this helplessness of personal sense, in that proportion are we made strong by the presence that never needed our help. Let us not confuse receptivity with passivity. Our silence will not be a sulk. Our listening will not be vacancy. Our expectancy will not be demand. It will be that poised readiness that says, "Father, here I am. Without you I can do nothing. Speak, govern, be." Then we wait, not idly, not with stopwatch in hand, but as one who knows that cause is acting even when effects have not yet reported. Sometimes in that waiting, a word will come, the imparted word that ends an argument inside. Sometimes no word, only a softening. Sometimes nothing that the senses can register at all. Do not let that disturb you. We are not manufacturing an experience. We are consenting to a government. And in proportion as that consent becomes our atmosphere, the day will show it. Hear it again negatively so that the positive may be clean. Abiding is not affirmation piled on affirmation until the mind is exhausted, not strain that sweats for serenity, not mental clinging that tries to hold a picture against the tide, not denial that refuses to take the next humble step, not using God to win at effects. Abiding is surrender of personal doership. It is intelligent, loving consent to inner rule. From that consent, instruction follows. From that instruction, action follows. From that action, fruit follows. Without our mustering, without our fear, without our applause. You will see then how gently simple our practice must be. We are not going to undertake a campaign of thoughts. We are going to learn a return. Silence, not as escape, but as doorway. Listening, not as curiosity, but as obedience. Expectancy, not as pressure, but as trust. Repeated 3 and 4 and 5 times a day, until the brief visits lengthen into stays, and the stays into a dwelling. We will take this up concretely in a moment. For now, let the heart rest in this. Abiding is not something we do to God with the mind. It is something we yield to within until the Father does the works. When the Father does the works, the branch does not brag, it bears. And the bearing is sweet, and the sweetness remains, because the dwelling remains. Meditation is the real secret behind all of the work that we do. Please let us be clear about that. Not the secret in the sense of a code to be guarded, but the secret in the sense of the key that opens the door, always the same, always available, and always overlooked when we hurry. Before our classwork, before we speak a word of instruction, we become silent. Why? Because abiding is not a thought to be held. It is a presence to be lived. And the only way we have found to pass from thinking about God to touching God is this simple, humble, repeated act. Stillness, not escape, not sleep, not a technique to get our way. Stillness as the deliberate return to the indwelling Christ, the vine, where guidance and fruit originate. Now, to those who are new to our work, let us state it very plainly so that confusion does not arise later. Our meditation is not in the nature of mental work. It is not the arrangement of holy sentences in pleasing form. It is not affirmations stacked like bricks to wall out fear. It is not denial shouted so loudly that the symptom cannot be heard. Our meditation is a turning within, a ceasing from doership, an attitude of expectancy without outline or demand. We are not coming to inform God. We are not coming to persuade God. We are coming to consent that God inform and persuade us. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me, he doeth the works. There is the core statement of our method. What then does it mean to turn within? It means to let attention, which all day has rushed to objects, emails, bodies, clocks, faces, headlines, come home. The kingdom of God is within you, closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet, not behind your ribs as a location, but in the still center of your being as cause. Anything in the external world is an effect, and all our running after it, all our fixing and fretting, has been an attempt to compel causes from effects. Meditation reverses that insanity. It brings the mind, the breath, the heart back to the center, quietly, without drama, until the inner government is once more acknowledged. Be still and know that I am God. Not think it, not say it, not argue it, know it by consent. Let us make the posture simple and, if you will permit, concrete. Silent enough, still enough, receptive enough. These are not measures to be timed with a watch. They are qualities of soul to be allowed. Silent enough means we do not come chattering, not even with spiritual chatter. We lay down the right sentence we were so sure would help, the noble wish list we so carefully composed. We do not outline results. Still enough means we let the body find an unforced quiet, back comfortable, hands loose, jaw unclenched, breath easy. We do not try to breathe a holy breath. We allow the breath to remind the body that it is not the governor of this moment. Receptive enough means we take on an inner attitude like the prophet who said, "Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth." We do not ask for a sign. We do not strain to hear a voice. We become the listening. If you will, let us practice for a moment without fuss, even in the midst of this room, even with the day as it is. Close the inner door to what demands resolution this minute. Let the shoulders lower by a hair's breadth. Let the breath rise and fall without supervision. Now say nothing outwardly. Within only consent. Father, here I am. It is thy good pleasure to give me the kingdom. Thy government is present. I of mine own self do nothing. Then listen. Do not ask. Do not search for sensation. Do not imagine this or that result. Let this be an act of trust that cause already at work is being acknowledged. If a word rises, a true word, it will be an impartation, not an invention. It may be only a sense of peace, be still, not as quotation but as authority. If there is no word, do not be disturbed. Your good has begun already because you have removed your consent from the tyranny of effects and returned it, even for these seconds, to the vine. If thoughts wander as they will, we do not strike them down with spiritual sticks. We do not wage war on the mind. We gently, kindly, with the same tone you would use to guide a child, bring attention back to the inward point. Father, here I am. Without you, I can do nothing. If the body protests, if an itch appears precisely at the moment of quiet, if a memory knocks loudly, smile a little, let it pass, and return. Our meditation is not measured by uninterrupted minutes of bliss. It is measured by willingness to return. Each return is a vote for God government. Each return is a lengthening of our stay. In proportion as we return 3 and 4 and 5 times a day, in short, gentle ways, abiding changes from a visit into a life. Someone will say, but I feel nothing, I hear nothing. Am I failing? Please let us be clear about that. Sensation is not the measure, obedience is. Hearing about God is not the secret of life. Feeling about God is not the secret of life. God must become to us an experience, yes, but that experience does not always register in emotion. A single impartation may be so quiet that it leaves no trace in the senses, and yet it changes the day, because it has changed the center from which the day is lived. Do not time God. Do not test God by thermometer. The moment you turn within, the moment you consent without outline, your good begins, because in that moment you have aligned with cause. The effects will conform in their season. Let the Scripture instruct our expectation. In the 15th of John, the promise is not, "He that visits shall be rewarded." It is, "Abide in me, and I in you." In the 91st Psalm, the safety is for he that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High. Dwelleth means live. Live where? In the secret place. What is secret? Not because it is hidden from you, but because it is hidden to the outer senses. In meditation, you go to that secret, not to hide from life, but to establish the only life that can govern appearance. And here another word from Luke. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Good pleasure, not reluctance, not rationing. When you sit in stillness and say, "Father, it is thy good pleasure," you are not flattering God. You are reminding your mind to stop bargaining and start receiving. There is a temptation here, and we must meet it frankly. The temptation is to use meditation as a device to secure outcomes. A pain rises and we rush to the chair to silence it. A bill arrives and we try to hold a meditation to make money appear. That is visiting the vine to borrow sap for our program. It is better than panic, but it still places the cart before the horse. The higher way, the only way that yields fruit that remains, is to turn to meditation as homecoming, regardless of outcome. To sit because God is. To listen because the Word is power and the Word is within you. To consent because the true doer must do the works. Paradoxically, when we cease to use meditation to fix life, life becomes fixed by the one who never was broken. If you wish a simple outline for your personal practice until it becomes your breath, let it be this. Come to stillness for 2 or 3 minutes, without ambition. Let the body sit easy. Let the breath settle. Say within, once or twice, not as magic but as remembrance. I can of mine own self do nothing. Father, it is thy good pleasure. Then stop talking. We are so accustomed to talking that we think God is deaf. He is not. Listen. Not for a message about your errands. Not for a method to win your case. Listen for presence. If the mind presents your tasks, bless them and let them wait outside the door for these minutes. If you find yourself composing a prayer, set it down. If you find yourself outlining what should happen, set that down too. This is the discipline and the sweetness. We lay down the reins we were never meant to hold, and we let being be. When you rise from such a sitting, do not judge it. Do not scan your chest for fireworks. Simply go about your duty as one who is under a new government. Often, without your noticing how, your tone will be different, your pace gentler, your eye clearer. An email you were sure you must write suddenly looks unnecessary. A conversation you dreaded becomes an apology you are willing to offer. A knot in the day unties when you cease pulling it. That is the sign, not thrills, not visions, but order. The sap is flowing, the branch is bearing. You did not make it so. You consented to it. Now understand that meditation is not an hour you schedule only on Sabbath. We will speak later of a day-long rule. For now, let your heart adopt this simple principle. Return often and briefly, not as superstition, as sanity. 10 seconds at the sink, 20 seconds in the car before the engine starts, a minute at noon when the phone stops ringing. These are not trivialities, these are lifelines. Each return says, cause not effect, vine not branch, thy government not mine. In proportion as these small obediences multiply, the abiding becomes natural. You will find yourself living from the center without staging a ceremony. That is our aim, and it is entirely possible because it does not depend on your cleverness, only on your willingness. Let me leave you for now with this assurance. There is no barrier between you and God save the noise you hug. There is no requirement you must fulfill before the kingdom will be given, save the one requirement the Master set: abide. And abiding begins here, in a chair, in a breath, in a consent that contains no outline and no demand. Do not wait to be better at it before beginning it. Do not accuse yourself for drifting. Return. Do not measure by sensation. Measure by surrender. The word that is power, the word that is safety, security, supply, companionship, home, health, harmony, it will make itself known within you, sometimes as a whisper, sometimes as a peace without words, sometimes as a courage to take the next right step. And because that word is within you, closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet, you do not have far to travel to find it. You need only be silent enough, still enough, receptive enough, and let the Father do the works. Let us take the next step with care, because on this point many of our disappointments have hung. We have read the words, we have spoken the words, we have even loved the words. And yet, how often have the words seemed powerless at the hour of need? Please let us be clear about that. The power is never in the word that goes out from our mouth as a device. The power is in the word that comes to us within us as impartation, as life, as living law. The word is nigh thee, even in thy mouth and in thy heart, says the 10th of Romans, not in the sense of syllables to be arranged, but in the sense of truth realized at the core of being, closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. In the 15th of John, the Master gives us our key: abide in me and I in you. If ye abide in me and my words abide in you. Abide, words abiding, not visiting the text for comfort, but dwelling in the presence until the text becomes flesh in us, becomes sap in the branch, effortless, invisible, sustaining. When abide in me is merely a sentence, we can quote it and still be governed by fear. When abide in me has been imparted without our aid as inner fact, then, whether or not we feel spiritual, we find decisions corrected at their root, speech softened before it leaves the lips, desire quieted before it makes demands. The branch is drawing, the fruit will follow in its season. Let me show you the practical difference. A disturbance arises. One person begins repeating, "I am at peace, I am at peace," with jaw set and breath shallow. Another, perhaps saying nothing at all, finds that something has settled within, a hush that was received, not manufactured. In the first case, the mind is trying to dictate to effect. In the second, the word within is acting as government. The result may look similar, a calm exterior, but one is precarious because it depends on sustained effort. The other is stable because it depends on realized cause. We are not condemning the one, we are inviting the other. How does this differ when applied to supply, to safety, to health? In every way, the law is the same. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Dwelleth means live. If we recite the 91st Psalm like a charm while inwardly bargaining with fear, we are visitors. If by grace and gentle practice, the truth of that psalm speaks itself inside, if it says you more than you say it, then without any outer boasting, a fence appears about your day that you did not build. Protection, safety, security. Do you see? Not your effort, not your right thinking, not your eloquence. The word within you realized becomes law unto your experience. This is why I have said, and will say again, that reading about God is far from experiencing God. Hearing about truth is good. Quoting truth can be helpful, but these are steps leading up to the experience. God must become to us an experience, and that experience often comes in the form of this inward impartation, a single word that ends argument, a stillness that dismisses fear, a certainty that requires no proof. One impartation of truth within can do more than 1,000 well-constructed affirmations. All power is in the Word. All power is in the Word, and the Word is within you. Now, what are the fruits of such abiding? Do not be afraid of the list. It has been given to you not as bait to your desire, but as the natural harvest of the vine's life in you. Protection, safety, security, supply, companionship, home, health, harmony, not chased, not glued on by will, not negotiated into being. They appear as effects when cause is honored. In proportion as the Word abides in you, in that proportion do these effects take their rightful places and cease to frighten you by their comings and goings. In proportion as the inner government is steady, in that proportion will the outer scene become orderly, not by magic, but by law. Someone will ask, but what of the promises? Ask what ye will, and it shall be done unto you. Hear it in its context. If ye abide in me, and my words abide in you. When the word abides as impartation, the asking itself is transfigured. We no longer come to instruct God in remedies. We find, to our surprise, that what we ask is what the Father is already doing. Prayer changes from problem-solving to participation. The will we once called ours has been softened into willingness, and the asking flows from that. The answers, when they appear, have a tone, unhurried, inevitable, without the brag of personal victory. How then, practically, does Scripture move from the lips into the heart? Not by clutching at it, not by clever analysis, not by louder recitation. It moves by the same grace that moves sap through the vine into the branch, and our part is the same as always. Return, be still, listen with expectancy and refuse to outline. Take a single word or verse, not as a tool but as a doorway. Abide in me, be still and know. Fear not, little flock. Hold it lightly, as one would hold a bird that has just landed in the hand. Then grow silent. Let it say itself to you, or let it rest in you without speech. If it speaks, receive. If it is silent, receive that too. Either way, the word is at work, because you have yielded space for its work. Test this in ordinary hours. In the middle of an ordinary Tuesday, when the calendar shouts, withdraw for 10 seconds, and lay the mind down upon a single remembered truth, not to force it, but to offer it a hearing. Father, it is thy good pleasure. Not 10 repetitions, one consent, then proceed. Watch how, without knowing why, your tone changes. A stray irritation does not blossom into an argument. A hasty purchase does not make it to the cart. A risky shortcut at work is simply uninteresting. Who arranged that? Not you. The word within, having found consent, begins to govern thought, speech, and decision from within outward. We are not going to measure our progress by sensations. Sometimes the impartation is felt. Sometimes it is only discovered afterward, when you notice that fear did not have its usual power. Sometimes it is a word. Sometimes it is a weightless weight of peace. Sometimes it is an impulse to do a small right thing when the large dramatic thing would have flattered you. Do not let that disturb you. In proportion as we return, in that proportion does the word take root, and in proportion as it takes root, the abiding becomes our atmosphere rather than our appointment. This brings us to a gentle question that will carry us forward. How do we keep returning until abiding becomes the very air we breathe? Not by heroics, not by vows we cannot keep, by frequent, humble, brief turnings that make room for impartation. Morning, yes. Noon, yes. Night, yes. And between them, the 10 seconds that say without words, vine, not branch, cause, not effect, Father, do thy works. As this becomes our way, Scripture will cease to be a stack of verses we run to in trouble and will become a living word that runs through us as sap. And the fruit will not only appear, it will remain. because the dwelling remains. We have been speaking of return and of impartation. Now let us make it the very pattern of our day, not as a burden, not as a vow that will accuse you when you miss it, as a rule of life so gentle that it carries you, a rule that turns visits into residence. Please let us be clear about this. We are not after spiritual excitement. We are not architects of a high. We are establishing an address. Abide in me, and I in you. Dwelling, not dashing in for relief. And the way we have found, again and again in every land and season, is this: 2 or 3 minutes of conscious abiding, repeated 3, 4, 5 times a day, morning, noon, and night, and whenever pressure rises, and between these, the brief micro-returns that make of life a prayer without ceasing. Begin with the morning. Before messages, before headlines, before the arrangements of the human day lay their claims, let the first claim be the kingdom within. Sit on the edge of the bed if you must, at the table if you can, easy in the body, gentle in the breath. Say within, once, maybe twice, not as charm but as consent. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me, he doeth the works. Or abide in me. Or thy presence is here. Then be silent. Let the words fall into quiet until there is nothing to do but listen. No asking, no outlining, no planning of victories. Listen for presence. If nothing stirs, do not be troubled. You have already performed the only holy act asked of you. You have withdrawn your faith from effects and turned it to cause. 2 minutes, 3 at most. Rise, wash, dress, but carry the awareness, however slight, that you have changed governments for the day. Now, at the door of your work, before the engine turns, take 10 seconds and make the same inward bow. Do not call it prayer if that word has become heavy. Call it return. Hands on the wheel, eyes open, mind recollected. Thy presence goes before me. Thy wisdom orders my way. Then proceed. Before you open the inbox, pause with the cursor resting for a breath and turn within. Vine, not branch. Acknowledge that the stream of messages is an effect, not a cause. You are not going in to wrestle them to the ground. You are going in as one who abides, who consents to be led to the one that is yours to address now, to the sentence that carries grace, to the decision that bears no haste. 10 seconds, 15 at most. Then click. At noon, wherever you are, at the desk, in the car, on the sidewalk, let there be another 2 or 3 minutes, not to recharge some inner battery, as if you were a mechanism, to reconsent to government. If you can close your eyes, do so. If not, it makes no difference. Within, lay the mind down upon one remembered truth, and then let even that be quieted. Be still, and know that I am God. Or, fear not, little flock, it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Then be the listening. Do not use this time to think through the afternoon. Do not bring the ledger into the sanctuary. In proportion as you are willing to be empty, in that proportion does the word fill, and in that proportion will the rest of your day be lived from cause rather than from effect. Now to the in-between. These are the hinges on which abiding turns into dwelling. Before a meeting, stand at the threshold and do not enter as a visitor. Close the inner door for 10 seconds and acknowledge, I can of my own self do nothing. Thy presence governs this room. Do not imagine the outcome. Do not arm yourself with arguments. Enter as one under authority. If a conflict begins and voices rise, and the appearance shouts for your consent, withdraw it, not by walking out, but by going in. A glance downward, a breath slowed by a notch, and this within, peace, be still. Not said to the other, not brandished as a weapon, said as fact to your own inner sea. Then listen. It may be that a word will be given you. It may be that you will keep silence. It may be that you will apologize. It may be that you will table the matter until heat has fallen. You will be amazed how often the outer scene rearranges itself when one among you is not consenting to effects for government. Before answering a difficult message, do not let the fingers outrun the heart. Lay them still for 10 seconds and remember, the word is within me, the answer is given. Then listen. The tone of your reply will change. Sometimes the content too. Sometimes you will find there is nothing to defend. The old self would have hurried to justify. The abiding self has nothing to prove because it is not the doer. Before a purchase, before signing, before yes or no, pause and return. Father, it is thy good pleasure. If this is for my path, thou wilt maintain it. If not, let it fall from my hand. Then proceed without drama. At the close of day, let there be a night return. 2 or 3 minutes again without pressure. Sit or lie with the light out if you wish. Place the events of the day on the altar of inner silence. Do not rehearse them for praise or blame. Do not scour them for failure. Father, I thank thee. Whatever was of thee abides. Whatever was of me, let it be dissolved. Then listen, not for scolding, not for flattery, but for that softness that says, underneath are the everlasting arms. Sleep then not as escape, but as abiding continued, trusting that the government that held you waking holds you in rest, and that the night is as holy as the day because the vine does not sleep. Between these anchorings, morning, noon, and night, make of the small pauses a rule. A kettle boiling becomes a sanctuary. A red light becomes a chapel bell. The walk from one room to another is a cloister. A doorknob is a reminder. Let ordinary things tutor you into frequency. Place small cues where the eye falls. A single word on a card, not as talisman, but as nudge. Abide, or listen, or hear. Use the watch or the phone if you must, not to bind you under law, but to invite you. If the chime becomes a master, silence it. The point is not to import a new tyranny. It is to establish a rhythm gentle enough that you can love it, and because you love it, keep it. Now, and this is important, do not fear your inconsistency. Someone will say, I set myself for morning, noon, and night, and the day ran off with me. I remembered 10 times and returned once. Please let us be clear about that one return is abiding, and tomorrow it may be 2, and next week 3. In proportion as you practice, in that proportion will remembrance ripen into reflex. Condemnation is one of the old government's favorite tools. It uses religion to whip the heart. Refuse it. Smile at your forgetfulness and return the moment you notice. That very noticing is grace in action. You are not starting over. You are continuing the only practice there is, coming home. Let your expectation be sober and kind. Do not measure your day by thrills. Measure it by returns. How many times did I lay down my doership even for a breath? How often did I refuse to be governed by effects? If the count is small, do not be disturbed. The kingdom does not come by counting, it comes by consenting. And consent grows with use. The sap does not flow because the branch strains. It flows because the branch stays. As this rule becomes yours, something very sweet and very steady will happen. You will discover that these pauses are no longer interruptions. They are the seam that holds the day together. The conversation is cleaner not because you tried to be nice, but because you were under a new tongue. The work is clearer not because you became efficient, but because you labored from order. The spending is wiser not because you grew frugal, but because you were unhurried. And the fruit that appears, peace, a quiet sufficiency, a reconciliation you did not think possible, does not come with the glitter of a campaign. It comes with the modesty of life itself. It comes and it remains because the dwelling remains. Try it and see, not as a test of God, as an experiment in sanity. 2 or 3 minutes, morning, noon, and night. 10-second returns at the thresholds of your tasks, at the edges of your reactions, a handful of inward cues. Abide in me. I can of mine own self do nothing. Thy presence is here. And then the silence in which the Father does the works. In a week you will notice a softening. In a month you will find that you are living from center more than from circumference. In a season you will discover that the line between your sittings and your moving has thinned, and that what began as visits has become residence. This is our aim, not brilliance, not performance. Residence. Abide in me, and I in you. And as you abide by these frequent, gentle returns, you will live there more than you leave, and life will take on the shape of that indwelling government, quietly, lawfully, and with fruit that does not spoil. Now the question comes to us in a more serious way, and we must meet it honestly. It is one matter to sit quietly in the morning and to feel, perhaps faintly, that inner hush. It is quite another when the telephone carries a voice that trembles, when the numbers do not add up, when a symptom presents itself, when a deadline bears down and the breath shortens. That, my friends, is the real test, not the hours of ease, but the minutes when appearance shouts for your consent and would seize government if you let it. Please let us be clear about that. The appearance always asks for one thing: your faith. And in the human scene, we have been liberal with our faith. We give it to headlines. We give it to balances. We give it to calendars. We give it to pains. Then we ask why we are so quickly moved, so quickly frightened, so quickly angry. The almost frightening fact is this: as long as we consent to be governed by effects, we are at the mercy of effects. But we are not without remedy, and the remedy is not a fight. The temptation is to take up arms and battle the condition on its own ground, argue with it, threaten it, affirm at it, wrestle it into submission. We have learned that this is labor without wisdom. We have learned to reverse the procedure. We do not treat conditions. We turn to God. We do not force fruit. We return to the vine. The instruction of the 15th of John does not alter because a voice is raised or a bill falls due. Abide in me, and I in you. Abide in me when it is quiet. Abide in me when it is noisy. Abide in me when the stomach is settled. Abide in me when it is unsettled. The law is one. Anything in the external world is an effect. God is cause. And the government of your being is within, closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. What then do we do under pressure? Not much and not dramatically. The movement is simple. Stop. Soften. Remember. Listen. Then move. If movement is given, and only as movement is given. Stop, not necessarily the outer act, though that may happen, but the inner rush, the mental scramble, the tongue that is eager to answer. Stop for the space of one breath. If you can, take your hands from the keys. If you cannot, let your eyes fall for a second to the desk or the floor. Stop. Then soften. Soften the jaw, soften the belly, soften the tone. It is amazing how a softened body helps a softened mind, and a softened mind helps a softened heart. Then remember what? Not solutions, not arguments. Remember the indwelling. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me, he doeth the works. Or abide in me, or the word is within me. Then listen, not for the fix, for the presence. Father, reveal thyself here. That is all. No pleading, no bargaining, no outlining. Reveal thyself here. Then wait a beat, a breath, a handful of seconds, and go on under a new government. Test this in the wild hours. The email comes sharp and the old self stands up at once to defend. Stop, soften, remember, listen. You may find that the first reply you would have sent is not the reply you will send. The tone changes before the words are chosen, or you say, let me consider this and return at 2, and you find that by 2 something has fallen from you, that would have spoiled the conversation. Who did that? Not your bright mind. The word within you, governing, delayed you into wisdom. In proportion as you withdraw consent from the shouting effect, in that proportion does the cause within have room to act as order, as timing, as right word, as right silence. Or the body flares and fear rushes in as if it owned the place. Stop, soften, remember, listen. Please let us be clear. We are not fighting a symptom. We are withdrawing our faith from what the senses report as law. Be still and know that I am God. Not be still and check the pulse. Be still and know. In that stillness, guidance appears. Not a map for the next 10 years, not a thunderclap, but a next right thing. Rest now. Call this person. Do not eat that. Go for the walk. Make the appointment. Do not say a word about it. Place the burden on the altar and keep your mind from rehearsing the worst. You see, right action rises from government. It does not explode from panic. And if the action includes calling the physician, you call not as one frantic for rescue, but as one under orders, unhurried, governed from the center. The action is the same in outer form. The spirit is wholly different, and in that difference, harmony begins to show itself. Or the numbers frighten you. You sit with the ledger and the shadow begins its talk. This will ruin you. This will cost you. This is proof you are alone. Stop. Soften. Remember. Listen. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Not the shadow of a ledger. Dwelleth means live. Return to that secret place, even for 10 seconds, and let the fear speak if it will. You need not answer it. You need not rebuke it. You need not decorate it with scripture. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, not a phrase, a law. In that stillness, perhaps you will be moved to one phone call, perhaps to reduce an expense, perhaps to offer a service you had withheld, perhaps to do nothing today but keep your peace and do your honest work. And then, in ways we do not outline, an opening appears. An expected payment arrives early. A discount is offered. A friend mentions an opportunity, all commonplace on the surface, none of them panic-born. In proportion as the government within is honored, the supply appears as effect, gently, lawfully. There will be moments when conflict rises in a room and the air is thick. You will feel yourself tempted to seize the moment with force, to win, to punish. Stop, soften, remember, listen, take your seat inside. Peace, be still. Not to the other man or woman, to your inner sea. Withdraw consent, then let yourself be governed. It may be that you will speak one sentence that carries authority without heat, and it will end the scramble. It may be that you will ask one question that opens a door. What would satisfy justice for you in this? It may be that you will say, we are not getting better. Let us come back to this at 4. You will be surprised, yes, again and again, how the outer scene begins to conform to your refusal to be governed by effects. One among you who abides becomes a door for all of you out of the tyranny of appearances. And what of time pressure? Ah, that old God. We have sacrificed much upon its altar. See it for what it is, a bully that lives by borrowed authority. Stop, soften, remember, listen. My times are in thy hand. Say it once, then be silent. You may find that you will do one thing at a time and finish more. You may find that you refuse the lesser call, so the greater can be answered. You may find that without knowing how, the hour stretches to hold what must be done, and what need not be done falls away without loss. You may even miss a deadline and discover that nothing of God's plan was injured by it. Time bows to cause when we stop bowing to time. This is not heroics. This is not stoicism. This is simple fidelity to government. In pressure, abiding looks like this. Do not be governed by effects. Return to the inner government of the vine. Each time you do, a law operates. In proportion as you release effects from the throne, in that proportion cause governs outcomes. Clearer speech appears, not rehearsed, but given. Reactions delay, not suppressed, but dissolved. Timing grows wise, not calculated, but bestowed. Openings come, not begged for, but recognized. And sometimes, most tenderly, you will be kept from the evil you could not foresee, merely because you paused to return, and so you did not go that way. Do not think that you must feel spiritual for this to work. Often you will return feeling nothing but the weight of the moment. Do not let that disturb you. Faith is not a sensation, it is consent. The kingdom does not require your fireworks, it asks for your availability. In the 8th of Romans, we are told of a law of the Spirit of life that makes us free from the law of sin and death. A law does not need your adrenaline, it needs only your non-resistance. Withdraw consent, return, listen, let the Father do the works, then act as you are led, and leave the brag behind. I urge you in these next days to let pressure become your teacher. When an appearance shouts, hear it as your bell for practice. Do not rush to fix. Ask first, where is the vine? Not, how do I make this go away? But, Father, reveal thyself here. You will find that many alarms that once ruled you are demoted to notices. You will find that many arguments never begin. You will find that many problems prove to be instructions in disguise. And you will find, perhaps with wonder, that the fruit that arises under pressure tends to remain, because it did not come from a stunt, it came from abiding. We are not promising that you will never again meet a tight hour or a loud symptom or a lean week. We are saying that these no longer need to be your governors. The secret place is not a place of escape, it is a place of rule. Live there even in pressure, especially in pressure, and watch how life, without fanfare, begins to conform to the inner cause. This is our way, not to visit God for relief, but to abide until His government is our atmosphere, and in that atmosphere, even the storm obeys a word that is not ours. Peace, be still. In the 15th chapter of John, we are given not merely a beautiful sentence, but a law that governs the whole of spiritual life. Abide in me, and I in you. Then follows the promise that ends so much of our wavering, fruit that remains. Please let us be clear about that. This is not a passing wave of devotion. This is not a mood that lifts us and then leaves us emptier than before. Fruit that remains is the natural issue of cause that remains. If the vine is the source and the branch abides, then the life that flows does not come in flashes. It comes by nature. The constancy is not ours. It is His. We do not hold the presence by effort. We consent to presence by return. The fruit stays where the dwelling stays. And here we stand at the integration of our whole way. Anything in the external world is an effect. The appearance, the check, the headline, the symptom, effect. God is cause. Abide in me means refuse to be shifted from cause to effect as your government. Live quietly and repeatedly from the center that is nearer than hands and feet, closer than breathing, until the movements of your day begin to take their order from that center. In proportion as you remain, dwell, live, make your home in that indwelling Christ. In that proportion will life arrange itself without your strain, and the arrangements will prove stable because their root is no longer your cleverness, but His life in you. There is, too, an identity that takes hold of us. We have thought of ourselves as human beings trying to reach God, stretching thought like a ladder toward a heaven far off. That has been the weariness of religion. But listen to the apostle, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. This is not poetry. It is our daily fact when we accept it as government. A branch does not perform the tree. It consents to the tree. A branch does not create sap. It receives sap. So with us, I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me, he doeth the works. This becomes the posture of our hours, not ambition dressed up as spirituality, but yieldedness that allows the vine to be the vine. Then the life expressed is not a human righteousness polished to a shine. It is Christ in us, the hope of glory, lived, not recited. What then is success for us? Not the dramatic, not the fireworks of feeling. Success is steadier inner contact and the harmonies that appear in proportion to it. How shall you know? You will count your returns rather than your excitements. You will notice that decisions once made in hurry come now with a natural unhurriedness. You will discover that speech grows clean, fewer words, more grace. Conflicts resolve with less cost. The body responds to wise restraint. Supply appears without the feverish swing of feast and famine. You see, these are not stunts. These are the quiet signatures of government, and they remain, not because you seized them, but because you stayed. Do not think I mean that you will never feel a storm. The wind will blow on the house that is built on rock and on the house that is built on sand. But the house on rock stands. Why? The foundation is cause. The word, not the word you send out, but the word imparted within, has become your law. Once that word settles in you, it does not need the daily propping of your will. It sustains you while you wash dishes, while you answer letters, while you sit with a friend. And when the weather changes, you do not scramble to reestablish what never left. You return, simply briefly, and you find that the pressure could not uproot what was not rooted in time. So I ask you to make of this not a beautiful thought, but an experiment. For 1 week, 7 ordinary days, practice a day-long rule of abiding. 2 or 3 minutes in the morning, 2 or 3 at noon, 2 or 3 at night. Between these, 10-second returns at thresholds. Before you enter a room, before you answer a message, when an appearance shouts. Stop, soften, remember, listen. Then move as you are led. Refuse to treat God as an emergency room. Do not wait for crisis to visit. Dwell. If you forget and remember only once, that one is not a failure, it is a doorway. Please let us be clear about that. You are not accumulating points. You are consenting to presence. Keep a little note if it helps. What returned you, what softened, what action was given, not as a boast, but as a witness to yourself that the law operates in the smallest matters. In that week, do not hunt for fruit. Return to cause. But notice without strain the fruit that appears, peace that does not need an explanation, a timing that protects you from waste, a conversation that ends well because it began under authority, a purchase quietly set aside without regret, strength to apologize, to delay, to proceed, without the old inner noise. These are signs that the branch is living where it belongs, and these fruits remain. Tomorrow they do not fall off because your mood is off. They remain because their root is the same today and yesterday and forever. If you should say, "But I do not feel spiritual," remember again, a law does not need your fireworks. It asks your consent. In the 8th of Romans, we learn of the law of the spirit of life. The law functions when you remove resistance. Each brief bow of the heart, each refusal to be governed by effects, is a removal of resistance. The Father within you doeth the works. Rest in that. Let the measure of your week be not how saintly you felt, but how often you turned. In proportion as you turn, in that proportion do you live from cause. And the world, without heroics, begins to reflect your dwelling place. Now let us end as we intend to live, by return. Close the inner door for a moment wherever you are. Be still, without asking, without outlining. Say within, once, maybe twice. Father, thou art here. I abide in thee, and thou abidest in me. I can of mine own self do nothing. The life of Christ is my life. Then be silent. Listen, not for a voice, but for presence. Let the next breath be governed. Rise and go on, not as one visiting God, but as one at home. And as you remain, the promise of John 15 becomes your atmosphere. Life bears fruit naturally, and it remains because you remain in the vine. Peace be unto you.